This week is a topic that I feel like has been really prevalent in the Slack channel and just kind of in general in our world, which is the topic of weather. Because it's summertime for us in the States. It's still weird. We've got folks in Australia who are talking about how winter's slowing down, and I don't understand that because we're busier than ever.
Yeah.
But in that, with summer concert series and just the general situation, you're doing a lot of
patio gigs
stuff
at the bar, and we're outdoor. It's outdoor season.
And at least where me and Dan are located, there's a lot of things to take into consideration when we're talking about performing outdoors. And the weather has been, I would say, particularly unpredictable and kind of miserable.
Yeah.
Where we are.
Yeah.
If it's not raining, it is oppressively hot.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
Yep. I would say so.
So the things about weather that we have to kind of figure out or deal with are, how do we endure the weather when the gig happens, and how do we account for the weather when it doesn't cooperate?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. Those are the two options.
And we asked for some questions or for some anecdotes and stuff, and we got a couple that came in via email, and we'll kind of drop into that in a little bit. But the two things that we really need to kind of dig into are heat and rain.
Yes.
So which one of those do you think we should hop in on first?
Let's talk about heat first, because there's only so many things you can do.
Yeah. So it's going to be hot.
It's going to be hot.
And it has been.
Yep. Rule number 1, hydrate.
100%. Do not mess around with that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because when it is hot and you are doing, because it's physical exertion on top of everything else.
Yes.
The amount of moisture you are just putting out can really put you in a bind really quickly.
Yep. Even loading in, even loading out. But you it's physical work, and I've had gigs where I showed up thinking everything was cool and I was a Superman or something. And by downbeat, I realized I wasn't sweating anymore, and I was starting to get dizzy, and I was starting to feel heat exhaustion-y. And by the time you get there, it's too late. You're going to have, a bad night. If you stay on your feet, you're gonna have a headache the rest of the night, and there's a good chance you won't stay on your feet. So hydration's a thing you got to stay out ahead of, and so it's as simple as just bring a big old water bottle, keep slugging on it. There's nothing better than water. People I know you're a fan of Liquid IV, and I guess that's good, but
yeah, let's talk about that. So outside of, because water it's the thing you're going to need to consume in order to stay on top of things. I'm a fan of the hydration assistant for a couple of reasons. One, they do work. It's adding, sodium and vitamins back into your body when you need them the most.
Right.
And they have myriad uses outside of, keeping you hydrated when you're performing outside. Sometimes you're playing inside, but maybe you went a little hard in the paint with the green room rider, and you don't want to necessarily feel like entire garbage the next day, and they also can help you in those scenarios.
Yes.
And I do like Liquid IV. That's what kind of like, I feel like at this point is they're kind of the Band-Aid of that world.
Yeah.
They've really got the biggest brand recognition, but Liquid Death did in fact send me some of their version of this, which they call Death Dust.
Nice.
I got a 12-pack sampler from them to do some content on TikTok about, and I got the 3 flavor pack, and it's the flavors are mango chainsaw, severed lime, and convicted melon. And I've tried all of them at this point, and weirdly enough, my least favorite is the mango, and I think my most favorite is the watermelon. And I don't like watermelon at all. I don't like watermelon as a fruit. I don't like watermelon flavored things. Something about that convicted melon is delicious and delightful. And It's kind of been my go-to. The lime one is the thing I like about it is like they taste like the fruit. It's not when you get like a liquid IV, like it doesn't taste. It tastes like
it's a candy version of the fruit. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
The one that we've been getting recently is like the popsicle bomb pop flavor. So
Right.
it tastes like
It's
popsicle.
supposed to be candy.
Right.
Yeah.
But the lime tastes like actual lime, and whatever this watermelon flavor is great. I'll throw some links in the show notes so people can check them out for themselves. But it's something that can kind of help you, like you were saying, you need to stay in front of it. But in a scenario where you haven't, this can kind of be a shortcut to get you back on the level. So get a sample pack, get them at Costco or Amazon or whatever, and just throw a handful in your gig bag. Just take it with you, because you never know when you might need them.
Yep.
So beyond hydration, you also want to take into account any sort of like sun related contingencies.
For
so
sure.
Our writer says that we're in the shade. Like that's a part, like our stage needs to be covered. We will make exceptions when certain circumstances kind of, make it worthwhile. But if we're playing at like 12 in the afternoon in the middle of summer,
forget it.
I'm not going to do that on a bare stage.
No.
That is just lunacy.
Yep.
And if you're in a situation where you're in direct sunlight, you gotta bring your sunscreen, wear a hat.
Add it up. Yep. Sunglasses.
I'll take a big old straw beach hat
for sure
if it'll do the job. I'm a fair skinned person, and I literally had a mole scraped off this past week to be biopsied. So I am very adamant about taking care of that.
Yep.
And you should be as well, because it's not great.
No.
It was like a razor blade and stuff.
Yeah, it's not good. It's
nasty
not good.
business.
Yeah. Watch out for sun. The other thing that you need to be out for, if you can do it, is some airflow. So you and I are both fans of the Lasco brand air movers. Some 100%. People, I see people show up with like a box fan. It's all right. It's not bad, but Lasco, man, they are industrial strength, built to air out your flooded basement. Right? That's how much air they move. And boy, blow one of those up the back of your shirt, and it is a very pleasant day.
Well, and that is my go-to. I think a lot of people, I see a lot of them where they have the air mover in front of them.
Yeah, blowing at their face.
And I don't like that for a number of reasons. First off, you're probably going to hear it in the mic because it's blowing air into it directly. And it just, like, your face is not the spot where most of your heat is generated.
Right. Plus it dries me out. Like it dries out my throat, and I can't sing great with a fan blowing in my face.
But man, you got that aimed right at the middle of your back.
Oh.
That is just, that's a good time.
Good place to have it.
So if you're new to the game, or you haven't quite figured out your setup, my recommendation is behind you, maybe off to like the side a little bit.
Yeah, because otherwise it will hit your mic when you step away.
Right. So you want it off mic, but like pointed real close to the middle of your back.
Yep.
And it will lower your core temperature considerably if done properly. And that's pretty much it as far as the heat part goes.
Yeah, and I think
stay out of the sun if you can. Hydrate. Sunscreen, shade. I think that hits all the notes.
I think we may have to know that there will come a summer in our future where heat will just be too high out to play. If you're in this last few weeks in Scottsdale, Arizona, right? I wouldn't play an outdoor gig at 110 degrees. Would you? Like, absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not.
They do outdoor concert series in Las Vegas. Like, I don't understand.
I know, it's bonkers.
And we've got listeners in Vegas that's their market.
Yeah.
And it's got to be brutal.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be miserable for the audience. Like, why would anyone put themselves through that?
No. Yeah. It's
especially with all the indoor space in Vegas.
Oh, of course. And it's all very well conditioned,
right. Yeah.
Now, I found something that I thought was really neat, and I think would be valuable. And I wish I had the URL for it. Again, we'll drop it into the show notes. but I found a shade estimator website. So what it allows you to do is you can put a location in this case, the venue or the place that you're performing, and you can run through the timeline of the day to determine when the place you'll be playing is in the shade. And I used that for the first time for that radio show, that Throwback Thursday that ended up getting rained out, because it was an uncovered stage. And I was like, are we going to be roasting in the sun? And it turns out that around the time that we were supposed to start playing, the sun was going to be behind all the buildings. It was perfectly dialed in for that. Of course, it didn't matter at that point, but that's just kind of a handy tool.
Yeah.
To kind of add to your arsenal. We're going to drop some app recommendations on rain contingency later on, but be resourceful about those things. Find whatever tools you can use to make sure that you, if nothing else, that you're well informed about what you're walking into and what to expect, so that when the time comes, you know what's going to happen, and you've got the proper equipment to handle it.
Right. One more thing before we move on from heat. I and many people like me have a deeply ingrained aversion to performing in shorts. That came from many years of getting that drilled into me as a young musician. There comes a time that you just have to let that go.
Yes, there's a time and a place for everything, and there is also a particular threshold where you're not doing yourself any favors.
Right.
And whatever cool points you would lose by wearing shorts, you will gain in cool points by not dying of heat stroke.
Correct.
Different cool points.
It's just all, life's about trade-offs. That's what it comes down to.
I could not agree more. But again, this is what happens as you kind of continue down this path, as you age.
Yeah.
Because Warped Tour, I was in a 3-piece suit in blacktop in the middle of July. It was 107 degrees, and I've got like a flowy blouse on and all black, just like sweating eyeliner like down my face.
Right.
And hairspray just like melted into my eyes. It's but we did it.
You did it.
We suffered for the art, as it were. But you couldn't, I would never do that these days.
No.
Did I wear pants at this 90s night? Yeah, I did. But I also had other contingencies to, make sure that I wasn't fully miserable.
Yeah.
Only partly miserable.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Now let's get into, let's talk about rain. Let's talk about storms. Let's talk about that whole thing, because while heat stroke is bad, the only thing typically that will happen is that you hurt you.
Right.
But I say that, and that last outdoor thing I did, that solo acoustic thing on the 4th of July, I totally borked my speaker by leaving it out in the direct sunlight. So
right.
Maybe I'm full of it. But wet gear's bad.
Yes. Wet gear's bad.
And you don't want wet gear.
No.
And I think we all have been in a situation. I was in one less than a week ago, where you're staring down the barrel of getting completely hosed out, and you've got a very short period of time to get your stuff off stage, out of harm's way, before it all comes down. There's still pieces of my rig that I have not been able to locate since that show went down.
All right.
I bought a second iClip expand because I couldn't find the first one, and the same goes for my my quick release for my 55.
Yeah.
Because it disappeared. I don't know where it went. So.
Yeah, that's why I usually decline help packing up especially my acoustic stuff. Like, thank you. Now I want to know where everything is when I'm done.
Yeah, I didn't have the luxury of.
No, you needed help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an all hands on deck situation. Like I said, I was putting the last bag into the car when the bottom dropped out. So
right.
We made it just under, just in the nick of time.
Right.
But we had about a 20-minute lead time on that. And we had that because we were being diligent about keeping track of the radar, because at least where we are in the South, I'm not, I don't want to speak out of turn, because to me, this could be like a universal thing, and you can just email coverbandconfidential@gmail.com, be like, yeah, it's like the everywhere, dummy. Storms just kind of pop up out of nowhere. Like there's not some sort of front that's coming your way. It just, you blink and all of a sudden there's a storm cell less than a mile from you.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I
it
mean,
disappears just as quickly.
Here where humidity's high, that is a thing that can certainly happen. Yeah, for sure. And sometimes there are storms on their way in and coming through, and you can kind of see them and predict them. But even then, often they dry up or don't land quite where you thought. I had a situation last weekend. I shared, I think, about it last week on the pod, where I made the call that it was going to be a rain day, and it was supposed to be the full band outside, and the venue doesn't have room for a full band inside, so we shifted it to just Taylor and me duo acoustic inside, and that turned out to be the right answer. It poured all night, but there was a time in the afternoon when things were clearing up and the numbers were dropping, and I was starting to get some, should we say, feedback on the call that I'd made. And I like to rely on a certain set of objective measures about that, but sometimes it's just not that easy. Sometimes you have to wait it out another hour or see what that cloud does, like you did at that show.
Yep. So all we can do is use the tools at our disposal, and it's still kind of a crapshoot. Now, when it's crunch time and you've got to make that call, 2 questions. What are your go-to apps or resources to anticipate what's going on? And then what does it take for you to finally call it when it's looking like it's going to happen?
Yep. So there are 2 things I like. The Apple Weather app on iOS used to be crap, and now it's actually pretty great. It has the by minute prediction of rain or chart on it. I don't know what that has a name, I'm sure, but
hourly forecast, predictive.
Something. Well, it'll show you is like over the next half hour, the rain's going to go high and then back down a little bit and then go back up. It's just charting out the prediction of weather right where you are, which is pretty cool. The other app I like for radar prediction stuff is Weather Underground, wonderground.com. The cool thing about Wonderground is that it's got a huge network of people with personal weather stations that are submitting feeds to it, so you can get really local with your conditions, and that's good. And in terms of what I'm looking for, my personal threshold is 30% chance of rain at any time during load in, gig, or load out.
Okay.
If we hit that number, I'm pretty unwilling to bring my gear out.
That's fair. And how do you have that conversation with the booker or who's running the event?
Well, if it's a contracted gig, that's in the contract.
Yep.
Most of mine at this point are not. They're bar gigs, and I just tell them this is my policy. I'm bringing out something like $8,000 worth of gear, not counting just mine, let alone drums and other people's instruments. And so it's a call I'm going to make. And hopefully they have space inside. We can regroup and make a backup plan. Happy to do anything about that. But in a lot of these places, their weekend night is built around nice weather on their patios, in my experience. Sure. And so it's a bummer for them when that gets rained out. The place that we were playing last week, again, the inside is not big. Great patio, big patio. The one time, twice the weather's held up there we've played, but we seem to get rained out there just about every time. There's the number of times I've turned it into an acoustic gig and brought my drummer on his cajon or Taylor to sing with me or whatever. We've done that a lot. And it's a sad thing for them because, well, they save a little money on us. I dropped the dollars down a little bit.
Sure.
But it's nothing on what the potential sale they lost by having the patio clear out. Yeah. So it's a rough night for them either way. And have there been times I've made the call and then it didn't work out to rain? Yeah, that has happened. And that there's got to be a level of risk that you're willing to take and a level you're not willing to take. And that's the nature of risk, is sometimes it doesn't pan out to be as risk, the danger doesn't appear, but that doesn't mean the risk evaluation wasn't valid.
Yeah. The verbiage in the contract, which is the one that you can buy on our website, around weather is very specific. And it's not just, setting a percentage of rain or whatever, but it's the there's also specific verbiage around if we are asked to relocate, we are only going to reconfigure once.
Right.
Like you can't move everything in and then things clear up. It's like, oh, can we like, no, that's not something that we're going to do.
Right.
We've got temperature indicators that we won't do outdoor events, whether things are too hot or too cold.
Yep.
So you can drill down and be very specific about the things that you are and aren't willing to do in terms of what kind of weather situations you're running into. So if you can get it in writing, but there we had a couple of gigs that were not contracted because the terms were just outside of our control. That radio one, there was like, we don't contract with you contract with us. And so typically if we show up and we load in, we get paid. But there are certain circumstances where, we won't get paid until we get rescheduled.
Yeah.
And, for the crew, like we had, guys there helping us set up and stuff. I will, take that out of earnings from other gigs to make sure that they get paid in a timely fashion. Cause it's like, it's not cool for people who are helping you out to get stiffed, when something like that happens. But if you have the ability to get a contract together and present that to a client, I can't tell you how many times our contract has saved us, and for the price that you can get it from us, it's so worth it. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
But as far as making that call, if we don't have the the parameters like we have in the contract, I think I'm kind of on the same spot as you. 30% is probably like the threshold, because if you're looking at 50-55%, like you're done.
No,
like
forget it.
It's going to happen.
Yep.
And if it doesn't, okay, pleasant surprise. But you've got to look at that entire chunk of time. It can't just be, well, it's not going to rain during the show, because there's all this other stuff that has to happen before and after the show in order for the show to happen.
Exactly.
So if the client comes back, it's like, well, it's 50% until downbeat. Well, what are we supposed to do?
Right.
How are we supposed to set up? How are we supposed to like get our levels and sound check? Like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And sometimes, again, this is one of those things where when you're talking with people who are throwing events, they don't always know these things. And a lot of times the stuff they're not doing it out of malice or ill intent. They just don't understand. So
right.
It is very important that you position yourself as educators in those scenarios and not do it in a way that is condescending or rude. But you do have to explain, like, hey, this is what putting a show together involves, and this is why it's not feasible given these circumstances.
Yep.
So don't necessarily jump down somebody's throat right away because they ask what you consider to be an inappropriate or impractical request of you and your group.
Yeah. They don't know. They're trying to make it work.
Right. And you should be trying to make it work too. Like, I've definitely been in conversations where it's just like, I just want to go home.
I know.
I don't want to, like, but you do have to, you got to try. You got to meet them. Try to get to yes. But even if the yes is, this is not going to happen, here's what I can do for you.
Right.
Which doesn't always feel like getting to yes, but it is at least setting proper boundaries around the things that you can offer as far as contingencies go when probability is not looking good.
Right.
So,
and it's not an easy conversation.
No,
you gotta be a big person and have it.
Yeah. And you gotta be willing to toe the line, be like, hey, this is not going to work for us. Yeah. And I'm not going to put my equipment, I'm not going to put my people in harm's way for this event.
Yeah.
Because if I want to continue to do this, I've got to have both of those things.
That's right.
In good working order. You know what I mean?
Yep. What was that? I can't remember who it was, but a guy died because like a wet fan came up and hugged him, and then he got electrocuted on stage. Who was that?
It was somewhere in South America. Let me look that up real quick.
Yeah.
He was like a young guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brazilian singer 35 dies after horrifying electrocution on stage.
Yeah.
This happened like a week ago.
Right.
Arias Sasaki. I'm
Okay.
sorry, July 13th is what it. And yeah, he was. I can't. Ugh.
Yeah.
How horrifying.
Yeah. Terrible.
And if a promoter or somebody is giving you a hard time, send them that article.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. We're not. Yeah. All that took was a soggy person. Like, imagine soggy sky.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's no good.
Yeah. What's your advice for if I'm playing along on a patio and it's gorgeous and suddenly it starts gushing? What do you do?
Well, this is it's the house fire scenario. You got to pick what's most precious and rescue it first.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like electronics go, get the things that would potentially be the most damaged done first. And if it's your speakers, it's not that hard. Unplug them, power them down, unplug them. They're probably okay to sit in the rain for a little while. Just when you get home, dry them out, let them air for a day or two. You should be fine.
Yeah.
Instruments need to probably be prioritized. Any sort of, I always think about mixers because like if you've got like an actual like analog mixer, those faders are just open, open
disaster
crevices.
Yeah.
That could be easily destroyed with a heavy downpour. Those are the kinds of things you need to look for. Anything where the potential of water getting into it, ruining it, would be priority. So
I think about acoustic drums.
World, yep.
Yeah.
Thinking about like if you use laptops, like those got to go. Most of the other stuff, like in our like as far as like our front of house rig, you can literally just throw the lids on it and it'll be fine because nothing's getting in a way that would penetrate. I hate saying that word into the components. So yeah, that what I would say. Instruments, anything that has I don't know openings towards the sky.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't sweat speakers. Speakers are fairly resilient, all things considered.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mine took
not that you want
5 straight hours in 100+ degree heat before it decided like, all right, fine.
And did it come back?
Enough already.
Or is it dead?
Oh yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh, okay, good.
Now I've brought spares ever since because I'm a little gun shy about it, but I don't think we have any more outdoor gigs this season where we're running our rig. Everything else is kind of like, we're either it's a festival situation or we're playing indoors where, heat's not going to be a factor. So I think we're right.
Right. Good.
But yeah. So now Brian sent us an email. He had a couple of stories talking about what his band does. They're from Durham, actually, not too far from you.
Right down the street.
And he was talking about getting they roll in with a like a portable canopy when they're playing outdoors that has side and back panels, which is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
A lot of times you go to like somebody's putting on a show and they have like those tailgating tents, and those are fine if shade is all you're looking for, but like, if it gets nasty, like you're SOL.
Yeah.
He was also talking about how one time the gig went fine, but the guitar player was carting a lot of the gear and he's got a pickup truck. And so 45-minute drive home, torrential downpour, all of that stuff just getting pummeled on the way home.
Brutal.
And he finally he got a bed topper with like the cargo slide, which is really smart.
Yeah.
That way, you're not killing yourself trying to move it around.
Yeah, all hunched over under a cargo topper, trying to get things all the way in the back. Brutal. Yeah,
miserable.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And trailers are a good thing if that's something that you want to do. Honestly, like the thing that I keep thinking about, because like again, I keep accumulating all this crap. I'm heavily considering looking at some sort of like just having a band production vehicle, which is like insane. That's such an upfront investment, but also the prospect of like being able to just like hop into a car that everything is already loaded in and it stays that way.
Oh yeah.
Like the gear goes into like a sprinter. It goes to the show. It comes out of the sprinter, goes back in the sprinter. It goes back.
Yeah. Listen, when I was playing a weekly acoustic show, my acoustic rig just rode with me, and it meant I couldn't carry too many kids around in the back when we had kids over.
Yeah,
in some ways, kind of a plus. But but it was great to just pull up and not have to go to the storage unit, pick up things, come back.
Yeah. I was doing work for a buddy of mine who does this thing called the Big Game Show. It's like literally like they go to like corporate events and things, and they do live trivia with like a host in it. It's configured like a game show, and his setup is genius. It's literally it's not like a sprinter. What do they call the smaller sprinters? I can't think of the name of it. It's basically like a minivan size.
Yeah.
But it's built like a work truck.
Yeah.
And he has a storage unit, and he just pulls it into the storage unit.
Great.
And so
it's great.
When it's gig time, somebody goes, they get in the car, they drive to the gig, they come back, they put it back in the thing, they lock it up, and that's like, it's always ready at a moment's notice. Somebody just has to go and pick it up. And that seems nice. I don't,
it does seem nice.
We don't have the operating capital to do that currently.
Right.
But man, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. Wow.
I'd love it. Goals. # goals.
# goals.
All right. Any other parting words?
No, stay dry, stay cool.
And we didn't really touch on this, but get some tarps. One of the things that I started doing instead of tarps, because they can be kind of big and unwieldy, because all of my stuff is kind of modular, I went to like a camp store and got like literally like the ponchos, like the rain ponchos that come in like the little bag. And I like the idea of that because you can put like 5 or 6 of them in a gig bag, and it doesn't take up any room.
Yeah.
And when it's go time, you literally just rip them open, cover all your stuff up, and then you can just throw them out when you're done.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't had to use them this year, but I'm always ready to deploy it.
Yeah. It's like a tarp that's already pedalboard sized.
Pretty much.
Just lay it right on.
And
there.
that's, yeah. So you can put it on a laptop. You can put it on a pedal board. You can cover, a guitar stand, like easy peasy.
That's good.
So I'll throw that on there too. We'll get a running tally of all the things you need to survive.
That's right.
Maybe, you know what?
We can make a kit.
I'll go onto my Amazon storefront. And I'll put like a musician weather survival kit.
Yeah.
Just curated list, and we'll put that link in the show notes. So one-stop shop.
There you go.
Cool beans. All right, man. Well, listen, I hope that you guys don't have to deal with this and that the weather gods are in your favor. I really was thinking like Mother Nature had it out for us this year, because we've had a lot of run-ins, more so than usual. I do remember one year where we were booked at this one place 5 times over the course of the summer, and it rained. We were rained out, I think, 3 of the 5 times. And they were like in a row, like 3 in a row, where we just like, ugh. It hasn't been that bad since, but this year's running for the title.
Yeah.